Hey guys, welcome to the webinar. My name is Tadas. Today I'll be talking how you can utilize machine learning for web scraping and parsing. Specifically, we will be talking how you can utilize large language models to automate your web parsing work. So just a quick introduction about me. As I told you, my name is Tadas. I work as a software engineer at Oxylabs. I work primarily on web scraping, unblocking various web scraping targets, implementing new scrapers, working on scraping framework, improving browsers, other scraping engines. So just a quick agenda, what I'll be talking about today. We'll quickly go to introduction to parsing, how parsing simply works without any machine learning or large language models. We'll go a quick overview how to parse HTMLs with large language models. Then we'll go into a much more detailed overview of how parsing with large language models works in the background. Then we'll go to the fun part, a live demonstration. We will write two parsers, one for Oxylabs career job page, and then another one for eBay product page. So we'll do that in maybe less than a minute. So two parsers in less than a minute with large language models. Then we'll jump to the conclusion and questions and answers. So if you have any questions and answers during the presentation, you can use the chat box on your screen and ask me any questions. I'll answer after the presentation. So structured data disadvantages. Maintaining the websites can be incredibly difficult. For example, if you write XPaths manually for each of your websites and you want to implement 100 different websites, that can take a lot of engineering hours. It's also very difficult to maintain them. Websites constantly change. There are A/B tests. You need to write clean code for that. So it's getting incredibly difficult as you scale your websites. And of course, it can take a very long time to write a parser from scratch, specifically if the website you're scraping has a lot of fields, for example, 100 different data points, and you need 100 different XPath selectors and other selectors. So how parsing the simple way works? As you see, we're using Python here, and we're using LXML. So imagine you have a full HTML. This is, of course, just a simple string, but let's imagine this is a full HTML. Then you load it into the HTML object, and you call the XPath methods to get job title, recruiter name, location, and job description. So if you see the classes, they are gibberish here. You cannot read them. And these classes are actually machine-generated class names, which are very prone to change. So for example, if the front-end developers decide to make a change to the front-end website, those classes can change, and you'll need to go back and write all the selectors over again, which increases your maintenance by a lot if you're handling 100 websites or so. So how can large language models change and improve data parsing? Well, very simple. Let's go to ChatGPT and write a simple prompt. Hey, ChatGPT, can you extract XPath from this HTML? Of course, ChatGPT will do a great job on this, and you can use any other large language models, such as Claude, Llama maybe, Mistral, any other will probably work just as well. But this also is not scalable. You will not go and ask ChatGPT to write every XPath for you by hand. This is also time-consuming. So let's go maybe a step backwards and see how they can improve your raw data parsing. So of course, less maintenance, easy to write the parser. A large language model can write the parser for you if you provide a good prompt. It's very easy to maintain website changes. A large language model can notice website changes and fix the XPaths for you, so you don't need to take care of the parser maintenance. So, but of course, if you are doing that all by hand, this is not creating less maintenance for you. This is also some work. So we want to provide some tools to parse the large language models, and let's see what those tools can be. So firstly, if you want to scrape a website, you'll need the HTML. How can you scrape the HTML? You can either use your own built-in scraper, or you can use an Oxylabs scraper. If you use your own scraper, you'll need to take care of the blocks, proxy rotation, and other stuff. If you use Oxylabs, you will take care of that. So it's even a bigger step for you to automating your work and focusing only on your business. when you have the HTML, you'll need to clean it. So HTMLs sometimes can be up to 200,000 characters, sometimes even more. If you send the whole HTML to ChatGPT, that's going to be just way too much. Currently, I don't know, maybe there is one model or two models who can handle 200,000 token context, but most can't. And for example, ChatGPT, the cheapest model, 3.5 Turbo, can handle 4,000 token size. So you will need to clean the HTML to reduce the HTML size and split it into equal parts, and then send each of those parts to ChatGPT. Of course, there is a lot of steps which you need to take into account. So we built a simple tool, Oxy Parser, which will do it all for you. All you need to do is describe a pedantic model with your schema and give Oxy Parser a website URL. You can also provide just the HTML if you don't want to use Oxylabs Scraper, but I would highly recommend to use Oxylabs Scraper. As mentioned, we will unblock the websites for you, handle proxy rotation, just basically take all the rough stuff in web scraping, and you can focus on your business. So let's go over to Oxy Parser. How does it work? First thing, you need to describe a pedantic model. So as I've shown you in an example how to parse the simple way an HTML, you needed to have XPath for title, for recruiter name, location, description, and many other fields if you have a bigger website. So in this case, you only need to write a pedantic model. Here is a library usage example. You have an URL. For example, we will be scraping career Oxylabs.io and Python developer, mid or senior. We are also hiring for a Python developer. If you're looking for a job, I guess you could check the website as well. So parser, you initialize the Oxy Parser, you pass the URL and job item reference, and Oxy Parser will take care of you. In the background, it will scrape the URL and use ChatGPT or any other model which you provide to parse the HTML into the provided pedantic model. So this is an example if you want to pass the HTML, if you have it. If you pass the HTML, it will not trigger the Oxylabs scraper, and it will just use your own provided HTML. This is a more detailed overview. So let's get through it, and I hope this will be more helpful for you to understand how Oxy Parser works in the background. First thing first, you need to describe your model. Then you initialize it, start parsing. The Oxy Parser will check if the URL is passed. If the URL is passed, it will scrape it and get the HTML. If it's not passed, it expects already valid HTML. Then it will check for cache selectors. If cache selectors exist, then you will parse with the selectors. If cache selectors don't exist, Oxy Parser will get the selectors from OpenAI or any other large language model and cache the selectors. This is used because when we cache the selectors, we can reuse them for later use and check if they are still valid. If they are not valid, if the required fields did not parse, so the selectors are not valid, we will get the selectors from OpenAI again, parse with those selectors, save selectors to cache, and return the parsed result as a pedantic model. So let's get to the fun part, scraping Oxylabs career page, Python developer, and scraping eBay's product page for product price and title. So Oxylabs career page is a lot smaller, so maybe let's start with that. I'll just share another screen with you real quick. You should see my Python idea in a moment. Yep, you're seeing it. So as I've shown in the example, you describe your pedantic model, job item, with the required fields, title, recruiter name, location, description, give the URL, and the usage is really simple. You trigger the Python script, and it will scrape and parse it for you. So as you see, we're starting the Oxy Parser. It has no cache selectors. It started scraping Oxylabs page. So what happens in the background, the Oxylabs scrapers are launching a browser to load the page fully. We want to load the page fully with the browser just because there might be some elements that may not be loaded if you use a HTTP-based engine. So it takes some time. See, we got the HTML successfully scraped from Oxylabs, and we are sending the HTML into parts. So first part, we received the expat selectors from ChatGPT, title, recruiter name, location, description. Second part, we only received some selectors because, of course, we're sending parts of HTML, so all parts may not receive all selectors. And let's see if it parsed correctly. So we can see that it parsed the title correctly. We see Python developer mid senior, recruiter name Victoria. You can contact her if you're looking for a Python developer job. We can see location Vilnius correctly. Description. With description, description is not fully parsed. There's probably a lot bigger description, but that's the issue sometimes with those ChatGPT parsers, that they are not able yet to extract the expat selector properly. Sometimes it works just fine. So you may need to edit those selectors manually, but it's still a lot less work than writing the whole website from scratch, the whole expat selectors for the website from scratch. So let's go, and you can see it cached the selectors. So let's go now to another example. Let's create an eBay page. So eBay page is a lot more interesting because it will be protected with anti-bot systems. It's not so easy to scrape maybe sometimes. Let's see how Oxylabs will handle it and how Oxy Parser will be able to parse the title and price, and if it will do correctly. Okay. Okay, so I made a mistake. Just quickly fix it. Yeah, so it's initializing. You can see no cache selectors again for eBay page. Oxylabs is doing hard work now scraping the eBay page. So again, if you have your own scrapers, this might include, rotating proxies, solving captchas, bypassing anti-bots, knowing which browser to use, what engine to use for scraping, what kind of fingerprints to use. So I would really suggest using Oxylabs scraper just in case it's just because it's a lot easier. So you see, it got 3 parts right now because eBay page, of course, is a lot bigger than Oxylabs career page, and we're getting the selectors correctly. We got different selectors for different parts. That's very interesting. We'll see how the parser will handle this. So you see, I think it got correctly. We parsed the product title correctly. It's Air Jordan 4 Retro Bread Reimagined Shoes, and the price is $310. We also have the cache selectors. So if you are trying to scrape it again, we should see that it's using cache selectors, and it's gonna send those cache selectors back to Oxylabs scraper. So if you send the selectors to Oxylabs scraper, it has the functionality to automatically return the scraped item for you. So you don't even need to use your own CPU resources for parsing, for example. So let's go back to the slides real quick. Just opening the slides again. Bear with me for a moment. Yeah, so we've seen those 2 demos. I highly suggest to check Oxy Parser on the GitHub. You open source it, test it with your sources. Let me know how it goes. Also, all discussions on Discord are very welcome. There is a channel called Oxy Parser. I'll be there. If you have any questions, you can ask there, or you can ask in this presentation. Also, if you want to contribute to Oxy Parser, I really encourage you to do that. Also, you can create issues. We can discuss in those issues what works for you, what doesn't. I'll be personally there to answer this for you. And that's it. I guess we can hop to the question section now. Damian Kilganon is asking, how does OpenAI generate the selectors? Well, it's how large language models work. I guess you can read it more on OpenAI documentation page, how large language models work, or you can check Llama or Mistral, how large language models work. It's just kind of a bit of a magic, I guess, there. Question from Noyes. What mechanism could you recommend to properly prepare training data scraped from web? I would really recommend using some, of course, more known Python libraries. For example, scikit perhaps would help you. Also, I would really recommend to go and check fine-tuning models. For example, fine-tuning Llama model or fine-tuning Mistral model. Those smaller large language models work really well when fine-tuned to your specific use cases. So I would start there. Mahesh Kumar is asking, hi, with help of Oxylabs extrusion, if below is possible, I would like to extract data from argos.co.uk to check most selling item in last week, and same objective from other sites like eBay, Amazon, and Wayfair UK. Thanks. Yeah, you can really easily do that. If you have Oxylabs subscription, load it into Oxy Parser. Set your environment variables, Oxylabs scraper, and password in the settings, describe the schema for your wanted websites, and you can easily scrape it. I think Oxylabs also supports manually built scrapers, for example, for some of your mentioned websites. So I think you can easily do that. Question from Hamza. How can we handle CAPTCHAs popping up while scraping? Computer vision should be the choice, but it seems complex. Yeah, CAPTCHAs are a really complex topic to solve them manually with automated solutions. That's why they were created, to stop automated solutions to work. Again, I would suggest not investing time to solve CAPTCHAs yourself if you don't have a large team for web scraping. That's why Oxylabs exists, to help you with scraping difficult sources and sometimes solve CAPTCHAs or bypass CAPTCHAs. I would really suggest trying out Oxylabs and just checking how it works for your use case. Meltem is asking, how does it perform on websites that are not in English? Did you test with different languages? Yeah, I did test with a few other websites, but most of them were in English. I invite you to download the repository and check it for yourself. And of course, give me a feedback how it works, either on Discord or on GitHub. Pranyal is asking how this can help if page loads data in JavaScript execution by clicking some elements. Yes, so if you need to click some elements when opening a browser, Oxylabs Scraper supports this, so you can send the instructions what buttons to click or what elements on the web page to click, and we will click it. And if you're using your own scraper, you can also click the elements, wait for the page to load, and only then retrieve the HTML from the browser and pass it to Oxy Parser. I think it should work just perfectly. Ryan is asking, how do you know when to refresh the cached selectors? Very good question, and probably the most difficult part in this project, when to know when to refresh the selectors. So part of this is how Pydantic ensures that the expected output is the correct type. So for example, if I am scraping Oxylabs career page, I want to know the title of the career. In this case was Python developer. So if the title is returning incorrect type, for example, none-type or integer type, we know that this is not correct, and it needs to return string. So this will not work in cases where it's returning an incorrect string with correct string, and you should still need to check manually if that's correctly. You should also have some tests in place to ensure, for example, a specific website must return always a specific item. So you can check with tests for the specific website. Maxim, okay. Or Lion is asking, is there a best large language model to use for the Oxy Parser? Yeah, great question as well. I tested with ChatGPT and Claude. They were both doing very good job. I was testing also with Llama and Mistral. They were not doing such a great job, but of course, different websites may work differently. This project specifically is using Light LLM. It's another Python package which is unifying the different large language model usages. So what you need to do is just to give it an API key and specify which model to run. And you can test, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 different language models. You can find this information on GitHub as well. Aeon Watts is asking, the same website often have different page formats for different products. For example, books could differ from electronics. Does this not cause issues for the cache selectors? Yeah, also a good question. So, for example, if you are caching for the book site, you'll have a different cache key. And if you're caching for the electronic site, you also have a different cache key. The cache key is built based on website plus some website parameters. So that's how you can ensure that the cache selectors work only for specific website parts. Uh, Paul Klein is asking, what methods are there to handle max token length limits? So, of course, you can split the HTML into several parts or any other item you're sending. Another way is to just use a model which supports more tokens, but I would generally suggest just splitting your required item into several parts and then sending those parts to ChatGPT and then combining those parts again. I found that this works just the best. So Raul is asking the same. Hello, you say you slice your input HTML before feeding it into the large language model. How do you reconstruct from the several responses? Also, how do you deal with something like several prices in the same page? So say that you're scraping the Amazon websites. There are recommendations for other products, each with their price. How do you ensure the expat is one of the main item and not the secondary one? Doesn't LLM struggle with this? Yes, great questions as well. So how the slicing is performed, you can see on the GitHub repository. Uh, how does the price is how is the correct price extracted? That's a really good question. So I guess this is the magic of large language models. They are able to recognize which is the correct part, and as far as I tested, it doesn't really struggle that much. As you've seen with the eBay example, there are a ton of different prices on the page, of course, similar products and such, but if you give it correct prompt and correct model, I think it can work very well. And you can also, name your model, not like product item, but for example, similar product item, and a large language model will understand it. Kristen is asking, hi, how can I avoid the 429 error from when web scraping? So again, this is what Oxylabs can help with, but if you want to avoid it yourself, I would suggest checking your proxies. Are the proxies in good enough quality? I would check if you're using different user agents, for example. You should check for some uniqueness between your scrapers. Maxim is asking a great question. When defining the pedantic model, how can I ensure that the descriptor is specific enough and avoid ambiguity? Yeah, that's a very good question, but Oxy Parser is translating the pedantic schema into a JSON schema. So, for example, if you have a nested item and it goes like job page and then, for example, recruiter information, that's how you avoid the ambiguity. So it will create such a schema for a large language model that it understands what fields to parse. Question from Davidus. Could large language models be useful not only for parsing but scraping, like setting correct request headers, etc.? Yes, this is also a good point. You can use large language models to generate, for example, header sets or even cookie sets, for example, but that would require a little bit more input and maybe even fine-tuning or providing some context to your large language model, because I'm not sure if large language models may be aware of specific cookies the website is using or specific headers the website needs to be scraped. Mahesh is asking, thanks, I'll book a demo. I have visited your tech data show last week in London. Thanks a lot, it's impressive. Yep, thank you for the good words. The salespeople are doing a very good job in presentations. Meltem is asking, apart from getting selectors using AI, what features Oxylabs Scraper provides on top of Selenium? Basically, CAPTCHA bypassing, website unblocking. If you're struggling with, if you are being blocked by some website, Oxylabs Scraper can automatically bypass that. proxy rotations, you don't even need your own proxies. You just need to provide us with an URL, and we'll provide you with the HTML. Question from Mangis: secret hacks to manage hundreds of different scrapers. Yes, very good question. I guess there are no secret hacks yet. If you're managing 100 different of scrapers, you probably need to work a lot or have more people. Managing 100 different parsers can be a lot easier if you use Oxy Parser in this case. Daniel is asking, only available in Python, any other language? Yeah, right now it's only available in Python, but I'm sure it would be easy to rewrite in any other language. And if you do so, please also create a GitHub issue. I can perhaps help you rewrite in a different language, and I would love to see your use cases with it. How do you handle sites that display items using JavaScript and not HTML? You handle such sites by launching a real browser. Real browsers can render a JavaScript. Oxylabs, of course, does this in the background. So if you launch a real browser, you can render the JavaScript with the full HTML. Question from Sidra. Website DOM keeps on changing. How machine learning can help us in this? So as I've shown in the example, yes, websites tend to change a lot, and they have even A/B testing in progress. So you get different website layouts from different countries. You can fight this with AI, with large language models, for example, by providing it the structure you need and checking if the parsed result matches your output types, as I've shown with Oxy Parser. Question from Gabby. Is it possible to use an equivalent approach with an open source large language model? Considering the way that large language models work, are they currently the best machine learning alternative for this use case? Yes, you can use other open source. I've tested it doesn't work so well, so you have to test it for your use case. Maybe it will work better for your script websites. And right now it's not yet the best, but I believe it's gonna be the best source when large language models just become a bit more clever, I guess. So right now, as you've seen with the description example, it failed to parse the description correctly. It only got like maybe a third of the real job description. So you have to be careful about that, but I believe it will still help you with maintaining your parsers. Orion, another question. Can you handle iframe on websites? Yes, Oxylabs can handle iframe on websites. We will download the whole HTML, and you should see the iframe there as well. And if you don't see, you can ping us on Discord or contact your account manager, and we'll help with that. Cool. I don't see any more questions. So I guess we can wrap up. Thank you for joining. This was a pleasure for me to communicate with you and to present this with you and to answer your questions. And if you have any more questions, you can join our Discord, write an issue on GitHub, and I'll be helpful and I'll enjoy to answer it for you.